Weilà raga, come state ragazzi? Welcome to this episode of Italian Small Bites, where we take a look at an example in context and break it down. Now, you can think of the Small Bite series as being what comes after the Zero to Hero Italian grammar series. As always, anything I mentioned will be linked down below in the description. In that series, we look at everything from A to Z. In this series, we apply everything. So without further ado, let's just go straight on over to the digital whiteboard. Okay, now, as you may already be able to see, let me highlight, as always, I love highlighting small bites, okay? Because I just want to get that out of the way. So let's just get this out of the way and scroll down a little bit. That way you can see me and also see the material for today. This is quite the big bite, but it's still in the Small Bite series, okay? What I want to do today is talk about the Condizionale Passato, the past conditional. We're going to read this first, we're going to break it down, and I think you guys are going to love this. So the videos from our Zero to Hero series on the conditional will be linked down below. Check those out if you need some background. All right. Perché hai cercato di fare tutto da solo? That's the first line. Let's highlight. Perché hai cercato di fare tutto da solo? Avresti potuto semplicemente chiamarmi. Io ti avrei aiutato con piacere. I'm going to read it one more time, and then what I want to do is show you something that I call trimming the fat. So let's read it one more time. Perché hai cercato di fare tutto da solo? Avresti potuto semplicemente chiamarmi. Io ti avrei aiutato con piacere. You know, it's actually easier on that last line to say io t'avrei aiutato. It's easier to say t'avrei aiutato instead of ti avrei. Io ti avrei. You could. Io ti avrei aiutato, ma io ti avrei. No, you know what? Sneak in the E as you're trying to say t'avrei. Io ti avrei. Yeah, there we go. That's the trick to it. What I was doing is working on this piece right here. Io ti avrei. Io ti avrei. Yeah. Sort of try to eliminate the E, but then throw it back in if you can. So io t'avrei, and then sneak in that E sound. Io ti avrei. Io ti avrei. There you go. You can do it. You can do it. All right, so what does this mean? Why did you try to do everything alone or on your own? You could have simply called me, or you could have just called me. I would have helped you gladly. I would have gladly helped you. I would have helped you with pleasure. So let's trim the fat though first. That was what I had mentioned wanting to do. So let's get rid of all the highlighting. Let's trim the fat. I'm going to highlight the most important pieces here that you can focus on from a grammatical point of view, like a topic point of view, and everything else is window dressing. So I'm using two different analogies, trimming the fat, which is food related, and then window dressing, which is home decor. So they're two totally different things, but if you follow, you follow, okay? Hai cercato di fare. Avresti potuto chiamarmi. Ti avrei aiutato. Those four pieces right there are the essence of understanding this whole example. If you understand grammatically what's going on there, you're like 95% of the way there. Everything else is just window dressing. Maybe you think of it as a distraction. It's just extra stuff. So these are the main pieces. I'm actually going to focus on these first. So we're doing things a little differently as opposed to our other lessons in this series. So let me show you what all these mean. Hai cercato di fare. That's the first piece. So hai cercato di fare. This is something you can just memorize. This is the Italian way of saying you tried to do something. You tried to do something. Hai cercato di fare. So actually we don't need the something. I'm going to put something in parentheses, okay? Because hai cercato di fare qualcosa would be something. So I'm going to write that at the end just so you have it, okay? Qualcosa. So hai cercato di fare is a way of saying you tried to do. Where is to try coming from? Because the verb cercare, doesn't that mean to search? It does. Think of the verb to search as in to seek to do something. See how that's a little different? Not that you're searching something online, like hai cercato il significato online. You looked up, it can also mean to look up. You looked up the meaning online, but you sought to do something. You were seeking something out. So let's write all that down, okay? So we don't leave anything left without explanation. So cercare means to search. To search. So I was saying hai cercato il significato della parola. This is just another example. Online. So I'm just going to get all this out of the way so it doesn't confuse you. Hai cercato il significato della parola online. You looked for, you searched for the meaning of the word online. So here, cercato, in its past participle form, that's what we call this. This is a participio passato, okay? Past participle form. That just means like, it's a way of saying past tense, if you will. A past participle is what comes after the helping verb. That's why we have avere up here. We would only say cercato if avere is first before it. It needs that helping verb to become its past participle. Okay, so hai cercato il significato della parola online. So cercato can be searched. It can be, I'm going to scroll up, looked for, looked up. And it can also be sought. Sought or even sought out. Okay? It can mean all these things. The idea is looking for something. You're searching. You're seeking. So, with that said, let's scroll back up for a moment here. When I say, hai cercato di fare, it can also take on the meaning in English of saying you tried. Because you sought to do something. Okay? So going back up here for a moment, perché hai cercato di fare tutto da solo? Why did you seek to do everything on your own? Why were you trying to do something on your own? I'm going to just leave that one there, okay? Because I want to focus on the condizionale passato. So perché, just the word for why, hai cercato di fare, we explained down here. It's a way of saying you tried to do something. You can just memorize it. Avere cercato di, and then a verb. Just memorize that to say you tried, you sought to do something. Perché hai cercato di fare tutto da solo? Just a way of saying all on your own or all alone. Now, for some of the more, the big meat here, okay? This is really the meat of this whole example. Avresti potuto semplicemente chiamarmi. Avresti potuto semplicemente chiamarmi. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this and we're going to bring it down, okay? I'm going to do some copy and pasting here. That's what I'm doing. Copy. Let's go down and let's talk about some condizionale passato, shall we? Ok. Avresti potuto semplicemente chiamarmi. This means you could have just called me. You could have simply called me. Okay. So you could have just or simply. I'm going to write both for you so you have them. Simply. Yet again, it's window dressing. You can eliminate that word and still get to the core of this sentence. Avresti potuto chiamarmi. You could have called me. Adding in this just or simply, it's just window dressing. It's just some extra detail. Some more emphasis. Called me. Okay. We're going to break down what is happening here from a grammatical point of view. Avresti potuto. That's our first piece. Avresti potuto. This is using the verb potere in the condizionale passato. Avresti potuto. So condizionale, passato, past conditional. we're saying avresti potuto. This is the participio passato. Remember that word we just shared with cercato before? It's the past form, if you will, of potere. So this is from potere, which means to be able to or can. When we're using it in a conditional way, can takes on the meaning of could, or would you be able to? It could be both. So let's talk about that in the condizionale in general, okay? So condizionale, I know I'm jumping around. I hope you don't find it confusing, but I'm doing this because I'm assuming you have seen the other videos on these topics, okay? So let's talk about the condizionale presente for un attimo, per un attimo. This is the present conditional. We say, for example, with potere, that potere in the condizionale presente can mean could or would be able. You could throw in to if you like. Would be able or would be able to. So condizionale presente could can mean, potere rather can mean could or would be able to. Well, why is that? Because potere as a verb communicates those two things in English. Potere can communicate that you can do something. And what does it mean when you can do something? You're able to. You're like physically able to do something. That's why when we're talking about this expression in Italian, posso parlare l'italiano. This is not the best sentence you could write for saying I can speak Italian. Because what this really means is I am able to speak Italian, right? I can speak Italian. That's what we're actually saying. If you want to express that you know how, you would then use the verb sapere. So you would say so parlare l'italiano. And this now means I can speak Italian as in I know how. See what that does? Because we want to talk about knowing how, not that I am physically able. That's what potere is implying here. It's subtle, but important. With that said, that's why when I'm talking about condizionale presente up here, I'm saying that it can also be would be able to. In the conditional, because the conditional is all about would, should, and could. All those things. I would do it, but I can't. I could do it, but I didn't have time, or something like that. Because when you could do something, you have the ability to. That's what we're saying. But there's some reason why you could or could not. Capito? All right? So think of potere as having those two meanings. With that in mind, when we then put it into the condizionale passato, as we can see up here, avresti potuto is just the past version of what we have down here. So could have or would have been able to. So let's take a look at that. When I say potrei in the conditional, this means I could or I would be able to, just depending on what translation you're using. Putting this in the past, potere uses avere as its helping verb. We would say avrei potuto. So I'm going to scroll so you can see this better, but I just want to show you real quick. Potrei with its past form avrei potuto, right? So avrei potuto now means I could have. Or I would have been able to, using that phrase. I would have been able or been able to. I'm going to put that in parentheses, okay? Think of it as having these two meanings. Now, what can we do? Well, we can explain what I could have or would have been able to do, right? So we need another verb after. Because these two verbs they've already changed in form. We have a helping verb with a past participle. The next verb that we use, we don't have to change in form. We just simply insert it. So whatever it is that I could have done or I would have been able to do, you just put in the verb unconjugated. So if we scroll back up to our example, what were we saying? We were saying you could have simply called me. That's why I was saying this word here, semplicemente, is just window dressing. You can easily remove it because we want to know what could you have done. You could have called me. And that's why we have chiamarmi here. So I'm going to write that down at the bottom, okay? Let's scroll down. Let's scroll down. Avresti. So now we know it's you. We're talking about tu. Avresti potuto chiamar. So if I said avresti potuto chiamare, you could have called. So this is you could have called. If we change it to chiamarmi, it just means me. So let's see if I could squeeze that in. Chiamarmi. This is now called me. Because when a verb is not conjugated, we could put the object pronoun at the end of it. You could also take this me and put it at the beginning if you want. You could say mi avresti potuto chiamare. You can also do that. Mi avresti potuto chiamare. That's fine. So you can either put it at the first of the family of verbs that has something to do with, or at the end of the one that's not conjugated. You could do that. Mi avresti potuto chiamare means the same exact thing. You could have called me. Now, let's move on to that next phrase. So the semplicemente is just for emphasis. You don't have to include it, but that's what takes you from like level 1 to level 2, if you will. That's what takes you from just learning something in a simple way and applying it in a natural spoken way. Io ti avrei aiutato con piacere. That is our last phrase here. Okay, let's copy and paste that and bring it all the way down. We did a lot of writing today. All right, so scrolling. Boom, let's put it right over here. Fantastico. Io ti avrei aiutato con piacere. Fantastico. We can make it all on one line. Love it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Io ti avrei aiutato con piacere. So let's talk about what's happening here. As you can see, there's no verb potere in here, no verb potere here, right? Those other examples we were doing, mi avresti potuto chiamare, because we were talking about this whole idea of I could have. And the reason why we then have the verb chiamare down here is because it's you could have rather. You could have called. The verb to call is the main action in this sentence. You could have what? You could have called. Here, though, there's no verb potere. So we're not talking about could. There's no verb dovere. We're not saying should. So what does that leave us with? There's only one other modal verb left in English that we normally use in this context in Italian. Would. So it's not should, it's not could. Process of elimination. We're just talking about would. So let's take a look. Let's translate this first. The io is extra. The con piacere is extra. You don't need it. So I'm just going to focus on ti avrei aiutato. Aiutato means what? Helped. Using avere, or it could be essere if the verb required it, in the condizionale is how we say would, should, or could, how we start talking about the conditional. So this just means I would have helped you with this T in the beginning because there's no verb that is not conjugated that we can tack it onto, so it has to go in front of this little family. So let's break this down for a second, okay? Let's talk about the verb aiutare. So aiutare means to help. This is a transitive verb because I help you. I can directly show you the action passing from the subject onto the object, right? So this is what we call a transitive verb, or verbo transitivo, we say in Italian. It's transitivo, and verbi transitivi use avere in a compound verb form, such as the past conditional that we're dealing with here. In the passato prossimo, how do I say I helped? We say ho aiutato, right? Ho aiutato. This means I helped. It can also mean I have helped. Like this, it's more rispecchiando l'inglese, you know? This is really looking like it's reflecting what we do in English. Helping verb, past participle. Helping verb, past participle. Ho aiutato, I have helped, but it can also mean I helped. How do we now put this in the present conditional? We say aiuterei. Because if we take any verb and put it in its conditional form, it just means that you would. Okay? So this is I would help. If I want to say I would have helped, need the verb avere, right? And that is also our helping verb that we need. So perfect. Avrei aiutato now is I would have helped. Wonderful. Avrei aiutato. Now, who would I have helped? You. That's why we use this direct object pronoun, ti. Avrei aiutato. Nice. I would have helped you. What if I could have helped you? Just for fun, I just want to include that to show you. Well, I would need the verb potere once again. And how do we use potere in the past conditional? Let's scroll up for a moment. When we were doing that nice little example, see right up here? Avrei potuto means I could have. Now, if I could have helped, what do I have to do? The third verb in this sequence, we don't touch. Throw it in. So avrei potuto aiutare. And where can I put that T? If I still want to say I could have helped you, I'm going to leave it blank for a moment. Think about it, okay? What do you think? Have you guessed it? I'll show you the answer. Ti avrei potuto aiutare. Or avrei potuto aiutarti. Avrei potuto aiutare. I could have helped. So just that on its own as well. Avrei potuto aiutare is I just simply could have helped. I could have helped. And the first two are could have helped you. I could have helped. Now, what could this also mean? It could also mean I would have been able to help. Can I squeeze it in? Yes. I would have been able to help. Because could and would be able to are viewed pretty much in the same way in Italian. It's communicating the same thing. If I could help you, well, I would be able to help you. I just have to exercise that. I'm going to leave it there. Okay? We're just going to scroll all the way back up to the top just to reread this once again. And if you need some more review on this, rewatch this video a couple times. All right? Rewatch this video a couple times. So, let's see. Where do we have it? We did a lot of writing today. As I said at the top of this video, this is more of a big bite. More of a big bite. All right, let's reread this. Perché hai cercato di fare tutto da solo? Avresti potuto semplicemente chiamarmi. Io ti avrei aiutato con piacere. I would have helped you with pleasure. This is a way of saying I would have gladly helped you. You would have done so with pleasure. Io ti avrei aiutato con piacere. I would have helped you with pleasure. If I threw in potere there, io ti avrei potuto aiutare con piacere, I could have helped you with pleasure. If I put in dovere, io ti avrei dovuto aiutare con piacere, I should have helped you with pleasure. Depending on context. All right, so we're going to leave this all here. that's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and checking it out. As always, be sure to check out those videos that I have linked down below in the description. They will help you to really understand this da zero, from zero. But I think you guys will have found this video very helpful. It's all about practice and repetition. I promise you, you'll get it. So always remember to spread the love, guys, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Ciao ragazzi, alla prossima!